right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. This is episode 133. I'm Christian Brindle, Glenn Shelton, and it's Monday. We're back at it.
Really fast. Double check your microphone input. I feel like you're coming through a non-compliant microphone source, if I may.
Testing.
Oh, there you go. I just saved the audio version of this podcast. For listeners, you're welcome. Send your tips to my Venmo. I appreciate it.
All right. Episode 133. We're back on Monday. And we're going to be talking about some changes coming down the pike with prior authorizations with a large Medicare Advantage carrier. So that's on the docket today. We never really have any time to plan this show, so I have no idea if you want to talk about anything. I have plenty to talk about.
No, I always have a couple aces up my sleeve, as always.
Well, why don't we start there then?
This one is off topic, very relevant because it just happened. I had a dream last night that we were moving in together. Okay. I'm not kidding. I literally had this dream last night.
Here we go.
The property we were getting was epic. It had like 4 buildings on it. I think we had a barn. Huge property. Okay. And there was like 3 houses, a barn. We're moving in together, and for whatever reason, we decided we needed a third person to live with us. We're like trying to figure out who it's going to be. Guess who ends up being the third person to move in and live with us? This is wild.
I have no idea. I have no clue.
It ends up being Tom Brady. Tom Brady ends up moving in with us.
These are the inner workings of your thoughts, of Glenn's thoughts.
the like welcome, like the move-in party, welcome party. He's got like one of his Patriots jerseys framed up by the fireplace. There's like a line of people out our front door. Everyone's like coming in, wanting to take selfies with Tom. We're just standing there. We're like, that's our roommate. Like, we live with him. It was a wild. I woke up. I was like, that was wild. That was wild.
Yeah. Well, that is wild. That is quite the scenario there.
I'd like to think the truth behind that dream is that we are going to become friends with Tom Brady this year or soon. That's what I'd like to think is going to happen. So
I have a bit of a rant for this.
I'd love to hear that. I have one other random thought, but why don't you go with your rant, and then I'll share kind of one more random thought that I'm curious about.
My rant might go a minute, so depending on how long your random thought is, I'm thinking we need 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get to the end of this.
Let's go.
Okay, so one thing I've been thinking about for some time and wanted to talk about on the show, but just I don't know, just never seemed like it was worth bringing up. Is this feeling that I get, and obviously I feel like it's worth bringing up now, but this feeling that I get that what I would call, and in private conversations, we've called them, in talking about these kind of things, the old guard of our industry. And I'm not gonna mention any names, anything like that. I'm not
name them.
I'm not going kamikaze.
Write the names on the wall.
One thing I've noticed.
I love where this is going. I'm so excited for this.
One thing I've noticed in our space, right? And specifically, I would say more than ever in the last 12 months. That being said, I feel like this is not a new thing. It's something that I believe I've seen since people really started to know who I was. But because I almost have like 2 careers. The first half of my career, no one knew me. I was under the radar,
Yep.
high producing agent, locally selling for the most part. Then I have this career where the second half of my career where
Industry influencer,
yeah,
took the industry by storm. Everyone knows who you are. You probably struggled to go outside without paparazzi. I'm assuming like you got
well,
people in the bushes in your front yard. They're like, it's
I
Christian.
I go out in disguise, let's put it that way. no, but putting myself out there a lot more,
But yeah, for
and
sure.
a lot more recognizable to people in the industry, things like that. So ever since that second half of my career kind of started, there's always been this feeling that I've gotten, and sometimes it's not even just a feeling, it's certain actions and communications that get back to me, that the old guard is bothered and threatened by what I stand for. And not just me, I think you by extension. But probably several of us, not just me in
I've never
particular.
been welcome. I will say, I don't feel like I've ever been welcomed by the old guard. Maybe they've flirted with me at times, admittedly, but they've never been interested in getting too close to me. So I can obviously empathize with where this is going, but please continue.
And I feel like, but specifically, I feel like these communications, actions, things like that have gotten back to me a lot more in the last 12 months. I would say the last 12 to 15 months, we have really gotten more attention at an all-time high for the
Really,
company,
really fast.
right?
Really, yes, really fast. Can you help define old guard to listeners,
Sure.
especially like
Sure.
newer agents? If they're listening to this right now, they might be like, old guard, like what crack is Christian smoking? The smoking, like explain without naming names. Explain the old guard for our listeners.
Companies like, no, I'm just kidding. No,
Well, hang
the
on
way
here. Let me get my
the way
list.
I would define a company that, or an organization that would be classified as an old guard, is a larger company, a
Okay.
lot of times, but not always, aligned with private equity, but been around a long time, decades, right? Like
Okay.
shaped the industry in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s, right?
That's accurate.
And almost like through just the sheer force of compounding time have
Yes.
become massive organizations, even
Perfect
though
definition.
there's not a lot of innovative or groundbreaking tactics or things that they
Oh
might
my
be doing.
gosh. That definition, that should be on a t-shirt or a poster somewhere. Like that is a bullseye on what the old guard is in the senior insurance industry specifically.
Yes.
Continue
Yes.
though. But yes, so you
And
left off on, as a company, we've gotten more attention in the last 12 months than ever before.
lots of attention. Lots of attention. And with things we were doing with the Facebook group, YouTube videos, things that I would be willing to come out and say that others might not be willing to come out and say for fear
Yes.
of their own reputation or
Yes.
career or
Retribution.
relationships, everything like that.
Yes.
Over the years, I feel like there's always been that attention, but I do feel like the past 12 to 15 months, because of the merger, we've had a focus on expansion and getting more attention on what we're doing. Old guard could be call centers, FMOs, a whole litany of different
Yeah. Are you
groups
seeing
that
those
you can.
questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that fit into this category. Anyway, the where I'm going with this is it's definitely gotten on my radar more and more and more that it's bothersome, the growth that we're having to certain people in the old guard. It's bothersome to the amount of attention we get from agents to people in the old guard. It's
Yes.
bothersome to the influence we have to
Yes.
people in the old guard, or just flat out misunderstood. It's a confusion to them. It's a confusing aspect to them. And there's been situations where I've wanted to, find ways to partner with people in the old guard, work with people in the old guard. And some of them have been willing to kind of, do collaborate of sorts. But oftentimes it's more so that like, I'm not part of the club. Right. But that being said, they still watch everything I do, everything I say, read every word I type, watch every word I say.
They are
on
in the
a video
bushes. They're in the bushes.
with the binoculars at all times. But yet they want to position themselves and position things as it doesn't matter what Christian Brindle says. It doesn't matter what Christian Brindle's doing, but nobody is more in line and in tune with what I'm doing. Right? It's almost like in the shadows. I've had
this should be a main topic. Honestly, I feel like we could go an hour on this one. Honestly, this is. Keep going.
I've had plenty of situations where I'll say something, and within 20 or 30 minutes, I have a text or a phone call being
Which
like,
is crazy.
Which
is crazy.
We would appreciate it if you'd take this down or not say this.
It feels like there's a deep state shadow government that is literally trying to puppet you. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Like, no, Christian, you can't say that. They're trying to manipulate you. I don't get it.
And sometimes it's a position where it's like, don't do this for us. It's good for you to not say this. It's good for you.
Of course, right. We're not saying you have to, but this is a really bad look if you don't take this post down. Right.
Point blank, I'm viewed by that group, and I'm not making this just about me. I think our organization is viewed by that group oftentimes as a pariah, and it's interesting to me that as when you look at those organizations, again, there's not a lot of innovative new things that they're trying to do. That's why they're threatened by what we do.
100%.
Right? They are ultra conservative. Their compliance rules are even more so strict than most carriers on what they'll allow internal use to do, but also to their agents.
Zero risk tolerance.
Risk tolerance.
Not conservative risk tolerance. We're talking zero.
Slow moving on making any type of decision.
Yes.
The definition of the left hand not talking to the right, things can never get done. There's confusion within the organization. And it just makes me wonder, right? Are they so worried about what we're doing? Because you can't, long term, what does that model bring you? Everything we just talked about. No innovation, no risk. It's not what got you there.
It's a slow death.
Yes.
I hear a slow death is what I'm hearing. Yes.
So I guess like over the next 15 to 20 years in our space, the turnover of power from the old guard is going to be massive. I don't think they realize it, but we're at a place right now where our space is changing very fast. And a lot of them are afraid of change. That's why Christian Brindle is a pariah. That's why you have to keep an eye on him at all times. Everything he says, everything he does. This stream will be viewed a lot by people in the shadows. I guarantee it. And so
this is amazing. We should have done this months ago. This should have been discussed, honestly. I love this. Love
it. It just makes me wonder, right? Like, again, you hit it right in the head, right? A slow death, a death of 1,000 cuts. Mets up.
Don't kidding. Bring the funeral up.
Just
Don't you dare bring the funeral up right now. I'm not. I just did my makeup. I'm not prepared.
I mean, you look at companies that don't change, don't innovate. Like, we are witnessing in real time the blockbusters of our industry.
Blockbuster, Kodak,
Kodaks of our industry.
another
Yes.
great example. There's so many that you could really go down this rabbit hole of companies that were absolutely on top and essentially just refused to innovate, even when it was right in front of their faces on what needed to happen, right? I'm pretty sure Kodak was presented the digital camera. If I remember correctly, I think the board or the executives were essentially, they either saw it coming or someone presented the idea to them and they just kind of laughed it off like, we're going to stick with film, bud. This is what's making us billions, hundreds of millions, whatever their numbers were. And they refused to innovate. And literally the ground went out from under them essentially overnight. And that's what I believe will happen with the old guard. There's a lot. I genuinely believe I could spend 2 hours talking about this topic. I have so much I could contribute to this topic.
Let's go as long as we want because the main topic I don't think will take that long to talk about.
Okay, good, because I do have a lot to talk about. I'm being told in the comments I'm being watched too. So hello, deep state.
you 100% are. You 100%.
I know I am. And I do want to talk about this because this is something that it's probably at an all-time high on the lead hero side of the business that I'm dealing with. And we talked a little bit about this on the podcast last week. There is an agent here in the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group who's being told by their FMO, which I don't know if I guess it would this FMO probably qualifies as old guard. It's not the oldest of the old guard, but it's probably technically in that group. And they're being given compliance advice that is not real. It is genuinely not real. And so what happens is I look like the bad guy. I get painted into this picture of Glenn's taking risk and he's not, clearly being transparent. We're 100% transparent at Lead Heroes with what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what that risk looks like. And I do understand that something like, marketing under general Medicare and doing communications, where by definition it falls under a certain umbrella of compliance. And I understand some people have different risk tolerance, and that's okay. It's just like investing your money. Some people have different risk tolerance, right? Some people are saying, hey, let's go ahead and get some stock options. Other people are like, I want to stick with the mutual funds. I want something super conservative. So that's at an all-time high on the marketing side of the business, where the old guard is really trying to keep things really close to the chest. And there's so many reasons, I think, behind that. We already kind of touched on some of that. But to really circle back, I think the main point here, and the reason why you get looked at and me by our collaboration here, like I'm obviously a part of this.
And you were probably being looked at beforehand too.
Oh, for sure.
with all honesty, right? So like this doesn't just apply to me. It's not a me thing. I think you're definitely included in that.
I was just messaging Dalton and I was saying how you're louder than me. And so I think because you've historically been loud, I've obviously been in the space for essentially the same amount of time as you. And I have put we both published books. We've both put ourselves out there in a lot of different ways, emails, posts, podcasts. Like we've done it. We've done, both of us. But I think you're louder than me. So I think sometimes you get more of the attention than I do. But I think what it really circles back to is I think there is this concern of that. I think some of them see it. I think some of them at the top see that they could lose ground to someone who is a disruptor. That's the word you really haven't used yet. Mm-hmm. When it comes, you're talking about it from the sense of, they're looking at you like a leper, but mm-hmm. I think there might be a smoke screen there where maybe that's how they're putting it out publicly, or maybe that's how that's being explained to you privately. But I think behind the scenes, at least there's a little voice in some of the old guard's head where they say, uh-oh, agents aren't responding to our direct mail cards anymore when we're asking them to join our FMO. But Christian has a Facebook group of over 10,000 agents, and he's doing a daily podcast, and he's, doing a live event every year. And all of these things that, and when some of these individuals talk to us privately, they can't do it. They're telling us privately, we can't do what you guys are doing. So
It's
there's
not
a fear, I think.
replicatable.
It's not replicatable. It's not. Trust me, it's not. Good luck. Good luck if you want to try to do what we're doing, because we've essentially broke ourselves into 10,000 pieces to build what has, especially the combination of what we put together now. But again, that being said, I think, talk to me about the disruptor part of this, because I think there's definitely some, I think it's being mislabeled by some of the old guard. I think they're purposely mislabeling it, and you're being too risky. You're saying things you shouldn't be saying. I think this is more of the disruptor piece of it. When something or someone comes along and it's the better mousetrap, it's the better way of doing business, it's getting more attention. Like, you're gonna tell me you gotta pull the plug? You got to back down. Let's go back to postcards. Let's go back to emails only. Let's stop doing live events. Let's stop doing podcasts. Let's stop doing videos on YouTube, because maybe it's too risky. Maybe Christian might say something that he shouldn't have said.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you some. I want to give some examples of some things.
Please do. I think this is a great time.
I've been told
yes
over the years by people that I'd consider in the old guard, and all of them want to work with us. They all want to work with us, but they want to do it in secret. They don't want it to be public. They want it to be in the shadows, and
they want the attention.
At times, well, no, they want the benefit of doing business.
The benefit of the attention without the publicity of being associated. Yes.
Yes. And so, I think, you hit it right on the head there, that it's that they see the value, but again, it's scary to them. And it's such an interesting kind of phenomenon to really observe up close. It's such an old school thinking type of mentality. We've talked a lot, like, just as a joke, we love boomers, but like, we'll be like, we'll joke with each other, be like, you're thinking like a boomer right now. Like, it's a very boomer type of thinking, like, and what is the boomer type of thinking? It's, don't get in debt. It's Dave Ramsey. Don't get in debt. Pay off your debt. Pay everything in cash. Don't take risks.
Buy
risk.
Term and invest the rest.
Yeah. That type of mentality, right? Towards everything that you do.
Yes.
And don't take risks in what you say and what you do. Don't be bold. Like, don't be Steve Jobs flipping off IBM and putting it in the newspaper in front of their building. You don't want to do that. And that's bad. That's scary. So anyway, circling back to some things that I've been told over the years, I remember years ago, I was told by somebody in the old guard that it will cost me big because I dress the way I do, and that I needed to wear suits, and I needed to wear ties, and I need to wear this, and I need to wear that.
Great example.
I'm like, and I thought to myself at the time, I was like, is there people out there that won't work with me because I'm not wearing a tie? And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm really questioning this. I'm like, it was just so perplexing to me.
The better question is, do you really want to work with someone who would question working with you because you're not wearing a tie? Is that even the type of person you want to work with? Right? Even if they are, like, see ya. No thanks.
I've had situations where people in the old guard won't take a picture with me. They don't want to be seen with me. They don't want it known that they're with me in public. I'm a pariah.
You sound like a side piece right now. The way you're describing yourself, it's killing me.
I'm a pariah.
That's a true story, by the way. I do. Yeah. That's a true story. The picture story is true. I was there the moment it happened. Christian called me. I remember getting that phone call and being like,
I was like, you won't believe what just happened.
I couldn't believe it. I genuinely couldn't believe it. I still struggle with that story. It sounds like a fake story. It sounds fake. It's not fake. That's a real story. That's true.
I've been told that I should never talk about anyone in the space ever. Like I should just keep my mouth shut. I've had people tell me that before. Now that could be good advice. It just depends on how I'm talking about somebody. And I haven't always been complimentary in my talk of others in the industry, but sometimes I see something that I think is bullshit and I've called it out historically.
Absolutely.
And just certain things like that. It's very interesting, but I also have been told recently as this year, that some of the biggest entities in our space literally have people that are watching everything I do.
This episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by the Seven Figure University. SevenFigureUniversity.com is a culmination of Christian Brindle's and mine's educational videos that we have developed over the past 2 decades of combined experience in the senior insurance space. There's more than 250 videos, hundreds of hours of content that can help you become a top producer or a top producing agency in the senior insurance space. We're talking about videos of how to work with specific carriers, how to do different types of marketing, such as seminars or Facebook advertising, how to generate content in the niche to help grow your business, how to grow an agency, all sorts of things. There's so much value in this. It's unbelievable. Christian, what do agents need to know about Seven Figure University?
Seven Figure University can best be thought of as an agency blueprint in a box that's put together for you, that brings you step by step in every facet of building a successful seven-figure insurance agency, and lays it out all in front of you so you can follow along. Whether you guys need help with marketing, whether you guys need help with branding, whether you guys need help with hiring, training, standard operating procedures, systems and processes, automation, you name it, it's covered in this course. Not only that, you get access to my weekly training calls every Thursday that go from January through the end of September on a week-to-week basis. And you can attend those live and ask questions live. And then, of course, the recordings are put into the university afterward if you can't attend it and make the live training. So there's just so much value. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and it's a great investment into your business to kind of keep you up to date on what's going on, but also kind of point you in the right direction in various things that you're struggling with.
Some of the best training you'll be able to find, you guys, in one spot for one price. Go to sevenfigureuniversity.com and learn more.
Let's get back to the show.
Well, here's a big one that you did, to continue on this examples.
Yes.
This kind of track of examples, because I think giving specific examples so you guys understand the type of content that Christian's provided that has ultimately gotten him in trouble at times behind the scenes, talking about contract levels publicly.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big no-no. That was frowned upon. Christian's done it many times and provided transparency where nobody wants to provide transparency. That's something I've also done, especially on the life side. There's been so many lies told over the years on the contract levels. And ultimately, a lot of these older organizations thrived on the lack of transparency, right? By either letting agents believe a certain thing without directly lying to them, or there's some type of misdirection, something where they're just not being fully honest or transparent. And so all of a sudden Christian comes along, and myself, and we're like, let's have a real conversation. Like, let's really talk about this. And these people behind the scenes are like, oh, like, this isn't good for me. This isn't good for the industry, Christian. Stop.
How about the Walmart situation? How much flack did we get for that?
Oh my God.
Behind the scenes.
Another great example. Yes.
For those of you that don't remember, we've always talked about Walmart and things like that, but there was almost like a scandal of sorts that took place a few years ago where many FMOs lost a huge portion of Walmart stores, and it went to one particular organization that was controlling them, and it was causing outrage. And you had to have your contracts with this organization that the organization ended up getting bought by a carrier, which had a lot to do with it.
I love this.
And
Our take, we destroyed Walmart. That was our take.
Yes, we destroyed it. But then we also we did in like an hour or two, I can't remember,
It was like 2
live
hours, I
stream.
think.
And we did an emergency podcast talking about this in public transparency. I have people reaching out to me privately that are involved in this whole situation at the time.
You need to take this video down. I can't believe you said all of this.
Yep.
And we're sitting here, we're like, what did we say?
What did I say?
What did we say that is so harmful to you? Like, you're going to tell me talking poorly about Walmart publicly is something that you feel like you need to censor us? It really is a form of censorship that has been attempted a lot of times behind the scenes, you guys. You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, right, we don't have to talk about it the entire show, but it's something that I've been thinking about a little bit lately, and it's been on my chest. I wanted to kind of get off my chest because, when I make posts about what we're doing is threatening to a lot of people, and that not just me, but I said over the weekend, I have a target on my back. I think we as a company have a target on our back.
For sure.
Because of everything that we're doing. There's a little bit of context for you in terms of some aspects of that. It's not to say that the old guard specifically is the only ones that have targets on us, because there's certainly other people that I would not put in the group of the old guard that I would say have targets on our backs as well. But it's just a little bit of transparency for you guys about this subject. And again, Gulen's right. It's something we could talk about for a long period of time. But I'd love to make sure we have time for the main topic.
I think that was a great. We'll have to do a longer episode another time about just about the old guard in general, and I think getting into more detail about how they operate and what their future looks like, because I think, again, it's the Kodak moment of the senior insurance industry. And really fast, there's another question here on the stream of, who are you guys talking about? Like, who is this? This isn't just one entity. This isn't just one person. The old guard consists of a large number of companies and individuals and people who you might know, you might not know. Some of them are behind the scenes and have never really put themselves out there. Some of them are more of a public figure. These are older companies who've been in the space for decades. Typically, they've been operating a certain way for a long time, and they've essentially just won the battle of attrition by being around for as long as they have. They've grown to a certain size. Some of them have private equity money, hedge funds behind them. Some of them are still privately owned. But that is who the old guard is. So if you're wondering, if you heard a part of this, you came in late and you're like, what are they talking about? Who are they talking about? It really is a form of censorship that they've attempted to take. And honestly, this will kind of be my last thoughts on this subject is I've always been of the mindset that I will take a short-term hit every single time, but I want to say what I need to say. Like, that's how I've always felt, no matter what, is like, whether we're talking about commissions, talking about, the Walmart situation, any other level of transparency where the old guard gets upset. They're throwing a tantrum like a 4-year-old over transparency coming out. And again, part of it is just, this is technology. It's 2025. We're here live. We're having a conversation, not just Christian and I talking to each other, but we're talking to thousands of agents on this platform every day. And that's not something that was even possible 20 years ago. This wasn't really possible, if it was possible, it wasn't as easy as it is today to do what we're doing as far as utilizing this type of technology to get out to the masses. So those are kind of my last thoughts on the old guard, but more to come for sure. Guys, today's episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast, I believe is episode 133. Am I correct, Mr.
Yes,
Brindle?
that is correct.
133. Episode 133 of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by Hire Heroes. We have a massive webinar planned this coming Wednesday. That's August 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard. How to triple your business in AEP 2026 with virtual assistants. You are not going to want to miss this webinar. We have a lot of great value that will be provided to you in regards to how you can operate as an agency owner or as an independent agent to protect your time and to, again, triple your production, triple your business, to have an AEP level of success that you've probably never experienced before. You do not want to miss this webinar. Seats are limited. We can only have about 500 agents live on the webinar. So register now. There's going to be a link below this video. You can also head over to hireheroes.com and register for the webinar there. That's hireheroes.com.
Boom. Hire Heroes, guys. Make sure that you're on that
Yes.
training. We're looking forward to it. Okay. Let's shift gears into the main topic. Appreciate all of you for being patient while
Yes.
we riffed for a few minutes
Yes.
on the old guard. And if you guys want to hear more about the old guard, definitely comment on the stream or whatever platform allows you to do so. Let us know there's some interest in kind of talking about the old guard. Maybe we do a full episode on it, and we'll kind of revisit that. Okay, let's talk about the topic at hand, right? So the topic at hand is large Medicare Advantage carrier to cut prior authorizations by a third. What does it mean? Okay, so let's share my screen and go into an article about this specific thing that I
Let's
found
do
very interesting.
Oh.
So
Look at this background. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Mr. Randy for getting this going.
Randy's a hero as far as I'm
He
concerned.
is.
We need to get him a
He's
medal.
A medal of Hire
Medal
Hero,
of-
Lead Hero honor.
Yes. Okay, so the article is titled Humana to reduce about 1/3 of prior authorization requirements. This is super interesting. This came out on July 23rd. It was on my radar for a while now, but we just have had other pressing topics to get to, so we didn't have a chance to get to it until today. So Humana said on Tuesday it would eliminate about 1/3 of prior authorizations for outpatient services by next year, the latest insurer to address the tedious paperwork process that has been a pain point for patients and providers. The company will remove the authorization requirement for diagnostic services across colonoscopies and I can't even read that word.
Transthoric?
Thank you.
I
We'll
think.
go with
I
that.
don't know. Yeah, I might be saying that wrong.
Yeah, it's okay. Echocardiograms, we're not doctors, and select CT scans and MRIs by
Sometimes.
January 1st. Wait, but I play one on the podcast.
I did, yeah.
So, okay, select CT scans and MRIs by January 1st, 2026. So, relatively quickly here. Insurers have been facing increased scrutiny and backlash over the lengthy paperwork required to carry out specific services or treatment. While the companies have said it ensures people receive required care and helps to keep track of costs, patients have argued that the long process leads to care delays or denials. Today's healthcare system is too complex, frustrating, and difficult to navigate, and we must do better, said Humana CEO Jim Reckton. The killing of the head of United Health's insurance unit last year had ignited significant social media backlash from Americans struggling to receive and pay for medical care. Okay. Let me see if there's any other interesting things to kind of get to here. Several health insurance have taken additional measures to simplify their requirements for prior authorization and medicines and medical services. America's Health Insurance Plans, the industry's trade group, said last month health insurers would work to develop standardized data and submission requirements for electronic prior authorization by January 1st, 2027. United Health said in March it would ease requirements to get insurance authorization when renewing prescriptions on about 80 drugs, aiming to eliminate about up to 25% of reauthorization requirements. So anyway, the long and short of it is about a third of services that were requiring prior authorization before, according to Humana on their Medicare Advantage plans, will no longer require them come, I guess, January 1st of this upcoming year, 2026. What is your reaction to that news and that article?
I mean, this sounds like it's something that would massively benefit beneficiaries, right? Access to care, if they're cutting a third of prior authorizations, which ultimately at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? Like I want to make sure as a senior insurance agent, I want to make sure that the Medicare beneficiaries that we're working with are being taken care of, right? And hopefully as an industry, we're all on the same page with that. And it seems like this is something that's going to benefit the beneficiaries, which is awesome, because I hate when the news goes the other direction and it seems like they're moving the goalposts. So what were your first thoughts on this though?
Yeah, I think any time that pre-auths get reduced, I think it's great for the beneficiary. I do hope they're making some precautions that they can put into place to prevent fraud, because I feel like anytime something gets reduced or the leash gets loosened, it opens up the door to potential abuses and fraud, which ends up then after a bit of time of that, tightening the screws even more. We've seen it on compliance as well, right? Compliance rules get lifted, bad actors abuse it, and then there's all of a sudden more compliance on all of us than we had even originally. And so I hope that we don't see something like that as a result. But all in all, I think it's a good thing for beneficiaries. And the first thing I did think about is original fee-for-service Medicare moving in the direction which we talked about on a pod recently towards adding prior authorizations.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a few states to start off with, a few services, but again, it's like almost like a trial run, while a lot of MA carriers are moving in a direction to reduce prior authorization. So it's almost like when it comes to prior authorizations, let's say original Medicare is here, Medicare Advantage is here, they're kind of moving closer together to meet in the middle in that way, which a big thing that Medicare supplement purists have used over the years against MA is prior authorizations. So again,
Yes.
Does this contribute towards MA just completely eradicating MedSup in the next 5 to 10 years? Kind of like I've predicted.
Well, the other thing too that's interesting about that whole piece of the conversation is with the big beautiful bill passing and some of these Medicaid cuts passing, it sounds like rural hospital networks might be under the gun for funding. So that ultimately could potentially lead to, again, when it comes to the free market, once there's a hole in there, someone's going to step in, hopefully, right? So maybe these major hospital networks that have historically been in the more densely populated areas start to move more rural, and we really start to see the death of MedSup. Maybe it really starts to accelerate that with, the way that bill gets implemented. We won't know for a few years, the same way it took 2 or 3 years for the Inflation Reduction Act to really show up in our industry and to make waves. What's interesting in some ways too, the juxtaposition of what's going on with original Medicare versus Medicare Advantage right now, it seems like Medicare Advantage is kind of way ahead of the game, right? With original Medicare, like, hey, let's try doing some prior authorization so we stop losing so much money doing procedures that ultimately don't need to be done, right? Because that's in my mind, that's the whole point of a prior authorization, right? Is like, let's make sure that a doctor is doing this and it makes sense and the billing makes sense. So Medicare Advantage has already been doing that, and they're at the point where they're like, hey, you know what? We don't even need to do prior authorizations for all of these. This is a no-brainer. You know, whatever it looks like. I'd be curious to know the full list of what that looks like, but I trust that the carrier knows what's going on, right? I mean, I'm assuming that there's people a lot smarter than me who've looked at this and said, hey, this is going to help beneficiaries get the care that they need, and it's going to speed up the quality, the timeline of them getting that quality care, and we don't need to worry about it from a cost standpoint, because even if we have a small percentage that gets through that shouldn't, it's going to be better for everybody if we do it this way. So yeah, that's kind of another thought I had as we're going over this, is like, man, Medicare Advantage seems like they're decades ahead of original Medicare at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair analysis. And not to say that Medicare Advantage is perfect or it ever has been, but I do think it will, over time, increasingly eat up more and more market share away from original Medicare and Medicare supplement. I think it's kind of inevitable. And people say I'm like a Medicare supplement hater. I'm 100% not. I was doing a training last week, and that conversation came up, and it was like, do you just not like MedSup? I'm like, no, I love MedSup. I adore MedSup. If it made sense, I would love for us to only sell MedSup without us going bankrupt. But again, we can't. We would go bankrupt. Because Medicare Advantage is so strong, so prominent, so popular. And the math of it all.
That's an old guard. Only the old guard could do something like that.
But it's interesting, right? Like, you look at Medicare supplement. Medicare supplement is seen all over the country, record high rate increases, higher rate increases than we've ever seen, just shooting up. We're seeing more and more birthday rules implemented, which will then lead to more rate increases as we go in those markets. We're seeing what we talked about on the show last week, CMS cutting PDP assistance by a third that they implemented before last AEP, which will cause PDP rates to shoot up. So you have an expensive MedSup, an expensive PDP, and on top of that, you don't have additional services that seniors desire, like dental, vision, hearing. Like, the premium of this all is going to price out the consumer. I really do believe that as time goes on. Medicare Advantage might have its pain points as we go, as we run through this AEP next year, in terms of plan adjustments and reacting to the Inflation Reduction Act and all of that. But I'm looking 5 years from now, 10 years from now, like, where are we going? And I really feel like that's a realistic projection. As much as I don't like it, I wouldn't want to see it. I love MedSup, but it is a real thing. If you're doing an honest, genuine, unbiased presentation to a person that's new to Medicare, and you're showing them the differences between two in a lot of areas, that MedSup, it's like, okay, your MedSup's going to be this much. It's going to go up every year. Your PDP is going to be this much. It's probably going to be going up over the recent years. You have to get a dental plan. It adds up. And it's like, okay, in some markets, I can have a $3,000 to $5,000 max out of pocket on my Medicare Advantage plan. I might be spending that in premium before I ever get one visit to my doctor done with my MedSup. So that money's just gone whether I use it or not. And so
there's a comment on the stream here. There's one agent that has built his presence on MedSup as the only way to go. There's not just one of those agents out there. I'll tell you right now.
There's plenty of them, certainly.
There's some that are more predominantly known, for sure, and maybe a name or two comes to mind right away. But what I wanted to mention on this is what I've seen behind the scenes with a lot of these individuals, because again, some of the smaller old guard, I guess I would call them, the smaller agents, the smaller agencies who essentially were, solo agents, or they had maybe one or two agents and they built their entire business on MedSup. What I've been seeing behind the scenes with these individuals is they have been quietly getting all of their MA certs, making sure they're contracted with all of the MA carriers, because what's happened is they've started to lose this attrition where they're having a portion of their book slowly, the same way that you can track these stats on cms.gov, where every year a percent or two has been slowly going from original Medicare to Medicare Advantage. They've been seeing that with their book of business. And obviously, depending on the region and the state, it's going to be a variable, right? Maybe it's a smaller number, maybe it's a bigger number. But they've essentially been forced into the MA market. And that's kind of what's happening, is it's like kicking and screaming. Some of these agents, whether you want to or not, you're being, this is it. Like you're either going to do this, you're either going to start offering Medicare Advantage and writing Medicare Advantage, or you're going to keep losing a few points of your book every single year to MA, if not more.
I gave a talk at an event recently, and one thing I showed was, first off, how many Medicare beneficiaries are going to be turning 65 over the next 5 years. It's a staggering amount, right? It's like, more than have over the last 25 years, in the next 5. But another thing that's an interesting kind of statistic to look at, Medicare Advantage has 52, 53, somewhere in there percent market share today. It's estimated to be at 60% by 2030. So it's going to gain 7 to 8% market share in just 5 years. So it's just eating away at it.
It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
And I did see that someone in the comments, doesn't want to see it, but necessarily might, be expecting the funeral.
No, not again. Not again.
I will be a what do they call it? A pallbearer? What do you call it?
Pallbearer.
Pallbearer. I'll be a pallbearer.
I'll be on the other side. We'll carry the coffin. Plan F, Plan G, Plan N, high deductible G.
Very sad.
Moment of silence.
Very sad.
We've said this before on the show, but I feel like the best analogy for the future of MedSup is long-term care. I think it's going to be this kind of eccentric product where it just doesn't fit for most people, but for some it's a great fit, and for some markets it might end up staying strong. But I just feel like it's this slow death of 1,000 cuts, like you've said.
Yeah, I really do feel like historical parallel, like you said, is long-term care. There's so many similarities to those two product lines, right? Like, what did we learn? And we kind of already knew this, but we saw specific numbers on the episode a while back that Andrew Saul came on and showed loss ratios of Medicare supplement carriers and products in certain areas where they're 125%, 150% loss ratios. What do you think about when long-term care? Well, when they were being offered in 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they were being offered with benefits and price points that weren't sustainable long-term. And now long-term care companies go bankrupt left and right. There's so many of them that aren't around anymore. And the ones that are still around, they're trying to bribe their members to get off. We did a whole episode about this. We did a whole episode about this, right?
That was fascinating. That was a fascinating episode.
So there's so many parallels in what you're seeing now versus what ended up happening to the long-term care market. And, you might see those types of scenarios down the road, not tomorrow, not even next year, but maybe 10 years from now, with Medicare supplement plans being guaranteed renewable. They can't drop the client, right?
Right.
Will you see MedSup companies bribing their members to drop their plan? Will you see those types of things happening? You might.
That would be wild. That would be wild, but possible. Yeah, I mean, possible. Or, the alternative is you lose. They just, what if we started to see, what if they pulled plans out of markets? What if we started to see kind of what early MA looked like? What if Med Sup starts to slowly degrade into what early MA looked like, where it was really volatile? I mean, who knows? That's pure speculation, but we are getting towards the top of the hour here, and Monday being Monday, I know we both have very, very busy days ahead of us. So I want to make sure we stay within our time limit here. What a wonderful episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I think there was a little bit of something in it for everybody, if I'm being honest.
Yes.
Starting
yes.
with there's a comment here on the stream. It started with the new TLC show. Let me see, the new TLC show, Brother Husbands, that Christian and I will be on. Me,
Who-
Tom Brady, and Christian.
Brother husbands.
Brother Husbands.
Tom, who would you like tonight? Is this a night off for Glenn, or do you want to run it back?
Giselle, I've got the kids. Giselle, it's my weekend. Giselle gave me the kids this weekend. I can't do it tonight, guys. Tom,
Just stay in your
Tom,
farm.
you said that last weekend, Tom.
Who's it going to be? Us or your children, Tom?
You're spending too much time with those kids, Tom.
They're becoming more and more like her, Tom.
Guys, I'm going to go ahead and share my final thoughts on today's episode. First and foremost is there will be, I'm going to just go ahead and say it right now, there will be a sequel to the old guard conversation. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, hopefully sometime this week, but regardless of when it happens, we are going to do a sequel to that because I think it's an important conversation. I think it is. And there's so much that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't even begin to understand or realize. And that's another important piece of this that I think would be interesting to talk about. Some of these private conversations, these private messages that we get where it's like, hey, you can't say that. You need to stop talking about that. So that's coming. And secondly, yes, unfortunately, with the success that we're seeing with MA, that's ultimately what that main topic, the news article we discussed. I think to me, it's just speaks to the success that the Medicare Advantage operation here in the United States is having. This managed care, what started off as essentially a theory has now really started to dominate the Medicare industry. Originally it was just original Medicare and MA was like, don't do it. It's too volatile, blah, 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 whatever they wanted to say to try to shit on Medicare Advantage plans. But here we are. It's 2025 and Medicare Advantage is definitely the future. There's no doubt about it. You can't change my mind. So death of MedSup, unfortunately, we might see. Those are my final thoughts. And guys, don't miss the webinar Wednesday. It's going to be epic. Again, hireheroes.com to register for that. How to triple your business in AEP 2026 with virtual assistants. Mr. Brindle, final thoughts.
Final thoughts, you guys. I echo what Glenn said on the old guard conversation. I think we definitely should do a full episode on that this week because I do think there's a lot more we can get into relating to that, and I think there's a lot of interest from you guys. When it comes to the prior authorization thing, I think Medicare Advantage will have its bumps as we go because, like I said the other day, I believe it's going to be a multi-year shift of benefits and what plans look like in relation to adjusting to the Inflation Reduction Act and everything that brought, and the increased, prescription drug claims and costs that they are absorbing. But long term, it's going to win. I just don't see any other pathway, and it's kind of always been that case. But I think that it's even more apparent. We're starting to see the finish line in view sight, and I think. them lowering prior authorizations, original Medicare raising it, that's just even another thing that is just kind of trending towards the direction of even some of the things that original Medicare had as a selling point is starting to level out between the two. And so very interesting. Great show, you guys. Episode 133. Appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. No matter how you absorbed, whether it was live or whether it was on a replay on whatever platform, there's a multitude of places you can get the show. And whatever platform you're taking the show in today, if you watched all the way to the end, if it allows you to give a comment, like, subscribe, give a 5-star review, we'd certainly appreciate your support. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Appreciate all of you, and here's to your massive success. See you on the next one, everybody.
Happy selling!